Ever since the start of One Piece, many fans have wondered what Shanks has planned for the story. He seems to be some type of equalizer, meeting with the world government and other Yonkos even without the Marines stepping in to stop him. And he is shown the utmost respect by the strongest characters in the series. During the battle on Onigashima, Kaido lets us in on a very obvious secret. Haki transcends all. And this was already kind of obvious because the Yonko are known for their insane Congress Haki that can split the heavens. But when it comes to Shanks, his Haki's on a different level. Alright, so when it comes to Sky Splitters, Shanks is seen as like top 5 by most fans. However, I think Oda is actually showing us that Shanks is the strongest Haki user in One Piece. Now, looking at Shanks and all the times he has shown his Haki, it is absolutely ridiculous. And before we get into those feats, let's talk about Shanks and his crew. While fighting Luffy, Kaido emphasizes that Haki transcends all, and many fans didn't take Kaido's words seriously, but thanks to Shanks, he is now showing fans what powerful Haki can really do. Shanks' entire crew is made up of high-level Haki users, not a single Devil Fruit user. His crew is also said to be the most balanced, and his crew members have the highest bounties, meaning none of them are actually weak. Now, this is due to all of them being high-level Haki users. Ben Beckman was strong enough to rip off Kid's arm, and now he is still probably more powerful than Kid, even at this point. And Yasopp is so skilled with observation Haki, he puts Katakuri to shame. And Lucky Roo is one of the fastest characters in the series. He's based on a character who can outrun his own shadow, so pretty obvious he's one of the fastest in the series, even though he's pretty fat. So I would say Shanks' crew seems to be the most powerful by far. And now when we look at Shanks and compare him to other Yonko, he seems pretty mediocre. Kaido is pretty much indestructible, Big Mom is also very durable, and Whitebeard is not only durable, but he also has the strongest Paramecia Devil Fruit in the series. So how is it that Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido all show the utmost respect for Shanks? This is because at only 39 years old, Shanks has the most powerful Haki in the verse. Unlike Armin Haki and Observation Haki, you cannot train Conqueror's Haki in the same way. This form of Haki scales with your power level and your ambition, of course. Also, lineage seems to have a role in this as well, and I believe lineage is the key to figuring out Shanks, but I will talk about that later in the video. Moving on to Kid and Law tag teaming Big Mom, they are able to throw her off Onigashima, which is pretty impressive at the time, but she clearly did not use any advanced Conqueror's Haki during the fight. The one time she used advanced Conqueror's Haki was on page 1 and against Kaido. Not once did she use this technique on Kid or Law. Now looking towards Kaido, his attacks have shown a lot more AP, and this is because Kaido is using advanced Conqueror's Haki the entire fight, whereas Big Mom is relying mostly on her Devil Fruits, and being cocky for a majority of the fight. So I believe if Big Mom had actually used her sky-splitting Haki, Kid and Law would have been destroyed very quickly. But this still doesn't even compare to Shanks. Shanks has made Big Mom look like a complete idiot. Almost 2 months after the events of Wano, this man Shanks jumps from an island's distance and blitzes Killer and Kid at the same time, whereas Kid was able to hold off Big Mom by himself at one point. Big Mom is really just a big disappointment, but focusing on Shanks, we can see that even with the pretty casual attack, Kid and Killer were absolutely destroyed. So we have to ask ourselves, why would Oda allow Kid and Killer to be defeated like this? I believe Oda is trying to tell us that Shanks might be the strongest in the series. Now, some fans refuse to believe this, but honestly, it's kind of been slapped in our face for like the entire series. The first person to use Conqueror's Haki was Shanks. The only Yonko that uses strictly Haki is also Shanks, and he's also the only one with a crew full of Haki users. So I think Oda is making it pretty clear that Shanks has the strongest Haki, which technically means Shanks transcends all. Now, we don't know what Shanks' motives are, but I think there's a reason his Haki is so overpowered. Going back to the pre-time skip, Shanks' Haki was shown to be pretty dramatic, but compared to other emperors, it actually didn't stand out that much. But the difference is that Shanks doesn't seem to be trying to use too much Haki. It's almost like his Haki is being exerted because of stress. Now skipping to 1055, we see Shanks literally paralyze a Marine Admiral, which is by far the best Conqueror's Haki feat in the entire series. While Shanks is paralyzing Greenbow, Ben Beckman makes it clear that some of the crewmates are passing out because of Shanks' Haki. Shanks seems to be letting his Haki run wild. Now we have to ask ourselves why. Even in Film Red, which is not canon, I know, Shanks once again shows the greatest display of Conqueror's Haki the series has ever seen. And again, I know the movie is not canon, but volume 4 billion is. This holds canon information about Shanks, and some of the stuff in here is pretty insane. First and foremost, Shanks is known as the killer of observation Haki, which is something no other character in the series has ever shown. Not only does he have advanced observation Haki that can see 10 seconds ahead, he can also shut off your Haki, which is pretty broken. But there's also something in here that points to Zoro and Mihawk. It says Shanks can control one's breath, which immediately makes me think of Zoro's breath of all things. After learning that technique from his sensei, he was able to increase his sensory perception. Since Zoro was able to do this, this makes me think that Mihawk is probably capable of the same things, and he also must have future sight since his observation haki has been highlighted, and he's also known as clairvoyant. When it comes to Shanks, he seems to have abilities that directly counter some of the things in Mihawk's arsenal, which leads me to my next piece of evidence, which would be magazine number 14. Oda says the way Mihawk and Shanks drink is akin to Roger and Whitebeard. He also goes out of his way to say Shanks and Mihawk have the strongest rivalry, and this magazine is fairly recent, so it's not retconned or outdated or anything like that. Now this would mean that Shanks and Mihawk are probably the strongest characters in the series, even stronger than Roger and Whitebeard. Now I have implied this in some of my earlier videos, and many fans seem to disagree, but it actually makes perfect sense. When it comes to Mihawk, he's literally the only swordsman in the last couple hundred years to have a black blade, and for some reason many fans seem to disregard the fact that Roger is a swordsman, but Mihawk having a black blade is incredibly impressive. Ryuma, Zoro, and Mihawk are probably going to be the only ones who end up with black blades, and I personally think that signifies the strongest swordsman of the current era. It also must be noted that the Viver card says Mihawk received his title before the Great Pirate Era, which means it was before Roger's death. Now this makes sense because him, Kaido, and Shanks are from the era following Roger. So many fans have a hard time figuring out when Kaido and Mihawk got their epithets, but we know for a fact that Mihawk had his epithet before Roger's death, so it's more than safe to assume that Kaido also had his epithet around that time because he is 20 years older than Mihawk. Now when it comes to Shanks, his haki seems to be the most powerful in the series, but the question is why? Many fans have thought of the idea that Roxy Zebek is Shanks' father, and thanks to Volume 4 Billion, this theory is now very possible, because we now know for a fact that Rayleigh and Roger found Shanks on God Valley while he was just a baby at 1 year old. So when it comes to Conqueror's haki, sometimes there are characters with incredible ambition, and their children might not share the same exact goal, but they usually have their own powerful ambitions. To give some examples, Shanks mentions that Ace's haki burns bright like a fire, and this was after Ace said that he wanted to defeat every pirate in the world. Just like Roger, Ace had a very ambitious dream and powerful Conqueror's haki. And Dragon and Luffy are pretty much the strongest ambitions we've ever seen. Dragon is not only the son of Roger's rival, he's also the leader of the Revolutionary Army, which directly opposes the world government. It also makes sense as to why his Conqueror's haki would be really powerful if he even has it. And when it comes to Luffy, I don't think I have to explain that. Roxy Zebek seems to have the most ambitious dream of all time, which is to become king of the world. Not just king of pirates, but king of every living person. So if Shanks really is his father's son, it makes sense as to why his Conqueror's haki would be so powerful. Roxy Zebek was the leader of the strongest pirate crew in history, and according to Sengoku, he's the most powerful man Roger has ever faced. And this makes a lot of sense because in order to lead people like Whitebeard, Big Mom, and especially Kaido, you would have to be something out of this world. And going back to the topic of ambition, Oda says that Shanks has his own plans for the new era, so I suspect that whatever it is Shanks has planned, it will probably be on the same scale as Rox. So we'll have to wait and find out about that. I'm not sure if he's evil or good. I really don't have an opinion on that. I know some people think he's good, some people think he's evil, but either way, his ambition has to be very grand. But in conclusion, when it comes to Shanks and Dracula Mihawk, I think based on portrayal and feats, these two might have a Whitebeard and Roger situation where Mihawk and Whitebeard are clearly depicted as pinnacles of strength, and Roger and Shanks are not, yet they're still able to fight on equal grounds. So I personally believe now that Kaido is dead, these two sit at the top of the current One Piece world. I also would not be surprised if they surpass Kaido, but for right now, his feats and portrayal kind of just trump them, so we'll have to wait until they actually do something that surpasses what Kaido has done. But what do you guys think? Is Shanks being overrated, or is he broken beyond belief? Drop a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.